Hey, I'm Andrew Swaneveld, everybody. We're here covering Comic-Con 2012 with Newsarama.com, and I am here with a living legend, the one and only Neal Adams. Neal?
I think you're here with me and Marvel over there, who thank God you have a microphone because you're going to be able to hear me and yourself.
So, tell me how you got started in comic books.
Really? You want to know how I started?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, my daddy took me down to Archie Comics, and they let me draw the Archie comic books, and so I drew the Archie comic books. I got into comic books when comic books were ready to go out of business. And everybody told me that in a year they would be out of business. And so I went to whatever comic book companies were around. You see, what had happened was that America had attacked comic books. They had just finished attacking communists, and they were looking for another listing under C.
Right.
And so it was comic books. And so they convinced the American public that comic books were bad for their kids, that they would turn their kids into juvenile delinquents. So then I came into the business. Not a good time. So anyway, I showed my samples. Nobody wanted to see them. Everybody told me to get a real job doing something else that made actual money. And I went to Archie Comics, and I tried to work for Jack Kirby, who was at Archie Comics at the time, doing superheroes. And they told me they would do me a big favor. They would not give me any work because I ought to, since I was such a talented young man, I should do something serious like become an art director or whatever. And the Archie guys, whose offices I was in, talking to Jack Kirby and Joe Simon, said, maybe you want to draw Archie comics. I said, I will draw a baby's butt on your face. Anything you want, I will draw. So I started drawing Archie comics. That's how I got in.
Well, that's fantastic. And then, of course, your legendary work with DC. I've got to say, your Joker.
Legends don't start as legends. They start as pains in the asses. And eventually they may become legends, but that's after going through an awful lot of time being a pain in the ass. So I was a pain in the ass for a long time, and then suddenly I became a legend. I woke up one morning, people going, oh, you're a legend. I go, but I thought it was a pain in the ass. Well, you're still a pain in the ass, but you're evolving into a legend.
You're going to have to take our word for it. It's true.
Yeah, pain in the legend. Something like
Pain in the legend. What's been your favorite thing to draw?
Actually, I don't have a favorite thing to draw. Whatever I'm drawing is my favorite thing. And that is the most boring answer to any question that you could ever have. So I have made up a lie to cover that question in case you want to hear it. But to tell you the lie, you would have to understand that it's a total fabrication and it's a total lie.
Let's hear it.
Okay. And I have to put a serious face on when I do it. My favorite character to draw is Batman because he's like drawing two characters, Batman and his cape. Didn't that sound good? Bullshit. Total, I'm sorry, I have to admit it, it has nothing to do with the truth. It's like a total lie, but it sounds good, doesn't it? So if a fan comes up and says, what's your favorite character? I can feed him the lie, or I can tell him the truth, and then I can tell him the story. So now everybody gets to walk away from the booth and go, that's a great story. And so they get to tell the story. It's a lie. I couldn't care less.
I got one more for you. What are you working on right now that people can find you?
Well, I just finished Batman Odyssey, and you can get it in a book form now. It's 13 chapters. It's really a comic book that's a book. You read it like a book, and at the end, there's an end. Okay? I'm also working on I hope I get this right, First X-Men. It's about the X-Men before the X-Men. You know how they say so-and-so is extending the legend of the X-Men? I'm extending the legend of the X-Men at the front end, not the back end. So I'm telling the story that was never told about an X-Men who had a leader that was not Charles Xavier, but who was in fact somebody who is older than Charles Xavier. Now, if I were to ask you who is older than Charles Xavier, you wouldn't be able to tell me. So the character that's older than Professor X is Wolverine. Logan, who is like 125 years old. So he is the leader of the first X-Men. not exactly the guy you'd want your kids to hang out with. You know what I mean? I mean, he cuts people, and he trains them to fight, and they fight. And you know what happens if you train your kids to fight and they fight? Pretty much they end up in the hospital. So not a good leader, I would say. I mean, on balance, Charles Xavier probably better. So in our very first book, Wolverine tries to enlist Charles Xavier, and Charles Xavier tells him to go to hell. Says, first of all, you look like a werewolf. Second of all, get out of my house. I'm calling the cops. I don't want to have anything to do with you. He's 17 years old. He's at Cambridge, and this werewolf comes to his door with a dead body of a mutant in his arms and wants to get his help. And he goes, out. So now the problem is, how do you convince this kid, this bald kid, who's not in a wheelchair yet, to become the leader of the X-Men? Because he, Logan, Wolverine, is doing such a crappy job that he's got dead bodies in his arm. So we have kind of an interesting story going on. It lasts for 5 issues. Will it go on and become, I know that's your next question, will it go on and become a series? I don't know. I don't think they ever take anything that you start originally and not make it a series. So my guess is next X-Men will probably become a series.
Well, I'm not a Marvel guy, but that sounds incredibly interesting, and I might have to check it out.
Might have to check it out. And for that, I apologize. Wolverine actually may be my favorite character to draw. No, bullshit.
That's what you say to the guy that comes over to the table wearing a Wolverine shirt.
Exactly. My favorite character, Wolverine.
All right, well, you heard it here first with the honest, legendary, pain in the ass, Neal Adams.
Bullshit guy.
Just keep watching Newsarama.com for all the greatest coverage right here, and we'll talk to you later.